Welcome to The Wrap with me, Nickolaus Bauer. Simple news updates for busy people, brought to you by explain.co.za. Coming up, could meeting your maker take on a new meaning?
As part of the regulations for alert level 3, the current restrictions on congregational worship will be eased in a carefully measured way.
Protests against the murder of George Floyd explode across America.
Please, I can't breathe. Please, man. Please, man.
With Donald Trump living on another planet.
A fact check, F-A-C-T, fact check.
And the wheels of justice may turn slowly, but justice does eventually get served. All that and more as we deliver your top stories of the past 7 days on The Wrap. We begin with the bizarre move to open up places of worship. President Cyril Ramaphosa made the announcement just a day after announcing the entire country would move to level 3 on June the 1st.
Churches, synagogues, mosques, temples, and other recognized places of worship may resume services, but these will be limited in size to 50 people or less, depending on the space available.
For real, government can't stop churches from feeding their congregants snakes or rats or spraying them with doom, but they think they'll get them to keep to 50 in a place of worship. Bayahlanya. This will be a disaster for policing. And if I can go to church and talk to a higher power with 50 strangers, what stops me from having a couple of beers over a braai with my chums now that alcohol will soon be sold? But more on that in a moment. It seems the government's move was inspired by a warning from the African Christian Democratic Party that they can't use churches for votes come election time and forsake them as the lockdown eases. In spite of their president, Reverend Kenneth Meshwe, seeming convinced you can't fight COVID-19 with faith alone.
Know what the truth is and not be influenced by fake news. Truth always undermines fake news, and we are grateful for that.
With over 30,000 cases of COVID-19 and over 600 deaths thus far in South Africa alone, this is a bad idea. Luckily, some churches and faith bodies are stepping in with some common sense. The Zionist Christian Church has said it won't be allowing public services, and the Jesuit Institute says government's move is irresponsible and will cost lives. Meanwhile, we have no idea if schools will actually open on Monday. After announcing that grade 7 and 12 learners will head back to school on June the 1st, Basic Education Minister Angie Motshekga was due to announce on Sunday if it actually would go ahead. Education unions think it's a disaster in the making, as schools have not been sufficiently disinfected and teachers remain unprepared to reopen the education system. Former DA leader Musi Maimane is preparing an urgent court challenge against government as part of the One Movement South Africa's demand that schools remain closed. Meanwhile, his old party is also taking government to court. But the DA's reasoning is over the absurdity of lockdown regulations, with a big part of that being the continued ban of cigarettes. Hey man, education and inchies, everybody has their priorities. Depending on what goes down in the next few days or even hours, those court challenges look set to go ahead soon. Also happening soon will be hangovers. Booze will be on sale again from Monday. But like any good worker,
working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living.
It will only be on sale from 9 to 5 and from Monday to Thursday. You also can't consume on site, so pubs, clubs, taverns and other watering holes remain closed. But still, I'm sure there will be a blow-up of babalas in the days to come. Moving abroad, America exploded this week as the land of the free and the home of the brave recoiled at the murder of George Floyd. 4 police officers apprehended 46-year-old Floyd in Minneapolis for allegedly using a counterfeit $20 bill. What followed isn't exactly clear, but the next thing, Floyd was held to the ground by 3 officers, with one, Derek Chauvin, pinning his neck to the ground with his knee.
One of my homies died. With the backbone. My brother just died yesterday. Relax. Man, I can't breathe in my face. Just get up. What do you want? I can't breathe. Please, the knee in my neck. I can't breathe.
Floyd died on the scene after being held like this for over 8 minutes. Immediately, protests erupted across Minneapolis and in other major cities across America. Now, some of these protests did see many cities being destroyed by looting and fires, but I'm not sure if you can characterize them as senseless violence. America has a deeply problematic policing system, with forces across the country being accused of excessive force every couple of weeks. And the people bearing the brunt of that police brutality is more often than not poor black people. Never mind the fact that the sheriffing system in America actually has its roots in slavery, as an attempt to try and control the amount of former slaves that were moving between states across the country in the years that followed emancipation. US President Donald Trump responded to Floyd's death by berating protesters turning violent and tweeted he'll send in the National Guard because, and I actually quote here, when the looting starts, the shooting starts.
Healing, not hatred, justice, not chaos, are the mission at hand.
This is the same week Trump started having fact-check icons added to his tweets, seriously pissing him off. Twitter has basically called time on Trump shooting from the hip with his tweets, regardless of facts or the potential for violence or hysteria. It's a big move. And Trump was not happy about it, signing an executive order that sought to control the power of social media networks in America.
What they choose to fact check and what they choose to ignore or even promote is nothing more than a political activism group or political activism. And it's inappropriate.
And then, in the middle of the George Floyd protests, Trump announces the USA is pulling out of the World Health Organization due to its handling of the coronavirus crisis. Looking for a distraction, anyone? I could tell you how deranged and self-absorbed Trump is, but you already know that. I'm more interested in how these protests, in the midst of a pandemic that's already cost 100,000 American lives, may reshape US society. One society already reshaping is Hong Kong. Hong Kong riot police fired pepper powder pellets at protesters this week during the latest flare-up of anger in the semi-autonomous Chinese region. Pro-democracy demonstrators have been enraged by the Chinese Communist Party's recently unveiled plans to assert more control over the city with new and immensely controversial national security laws. This is important because just over a year ago, protests were regular, an everyday occurrence, when China last maneuvered towards more power over Hong Kong. We could be seeing the beginning of a new wave of protests. In other world news, this week Brazil became the second most corona-infected country, reaching 500,000 infections and almost 30,000 deaths, after President Jair Bolsonaro ensured there was no meaningful national lockdown in South America's biggest nation. And India registered its highest single-day spike of COVID-19 cases this weekend as relaxed lockdown rules there allowed permission for malls and restaurants to open. All kinds of social gatherings, including religious congregations, remain suspended though. And I know this may seem crazy to ask, but with SpaceX's first astronaut launch, has a new era of human spaceflight finally dawned?
3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA, go SpaceX, Godspeed, Bob and Doug.
SpaceX, the company South African-born eccentric entrepreneur Elon Musk launched in 2002 to eventually colonize Mars, this weekend flew its first mission, with its Crew Dragon spacecraft launched up to carry astronauts that will dock with the International Space Station. But it's going to be years before SpaceX commercializes space travel. So if you were thinking of checking out while the world deals with the Rona, think again. Finally, it's bittersweet, our inspirational story this week. There is a lot wrong with South Africa, but our courts and our justice system eventually do the right thing when government and organs of state fail. Collins Khoza, the man killed allegedly at the hand of soldiers during the lockdown, the Constitutional Court this week ordered a formal inquest into his death. In spite of an initial military investigation clearing all security personnel involved. It won't bring back Collins Khoza, but there is now a good chance justice will be served for his family. And the judgment doesn't mean the billions SAA lost while Myeni was chairperson will ever be paid back. But she will never be allowed to serve on a board again. It may take time, but at least we know that the law eventually takes its course in South Africa. That's it from The Wrap with myself, Nickolaus Bauer, brought to you by explain.co.za. Don't forget to show the love online and subscribe. Big ups to Arti, Romy and Varashni for helping me put this together. From me, Nickolaus Bauer, hambani kahle.